Elentiya Effect.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of the Elentiya Effect, where we talk about cybersecurity, strategic thinking, and game theory, but in a simple, practical way without boring lectures. I'm Shirin Hejri, and I've been working in SOCs and information security for several years. In this new season, we are going deep into something really important: MITRE's 11 strategies to build a world-class SOC. In the last episode, I quickly introduced all 11 strategies so you can see the big picture and know where we are heading. But today, we start the real journey. We will break down each strategy one by one, and we begin with strategy number 1. Know what you are protecting and why. It sounds simple, right? But behind this short sentence, there is a whole world of meaning. If you don't know what is important to you, how can you protect it? If you don't know why you are defending something, your action will be random, reactive, and probably useless. So, let's get started and dive into the real story. Here is the big question. Why is this sentence, know what you are protecting and why, the very first strategy? Because if you don't know this, everything else you build will be weak and unstable. When you are building or managing a SOC, the first step is not buying tools, collecting logs, or setting up dashboards. The first step is to stop, sit down, and ask, what is my organization's mission? What is important here? What are the critical assets? For example, if you are in a fintech company, your most important assets are probably your payment systems and customer data. If you are at university, it's your students' data and research. If you are a game studio, it's your source code and user information. This is where game theory comes in. In game theory, we say, if you don't know what is valuable to you or to your opponent, you can't build a strategy. That's why this is a strategy number 1, because everything starts from one question. What is important to you and why do you need to protect it? Now that we know we must understand what we are protecting, the next question is, how do we figure that out? That's where the concept of situational awareness comes in. Simply put, situational awareness means know where you are, what threats are around you, and what could happen next. In the Science podcast and in the MITRE book, they explain this using a practical model with 5 key pillars. 1. Mission and business objectives. 2. Legal and regulatory requirements. 3. Technical environments, system, data, services. 4. Users and their behavior. And 5. Threats, both external and internal. These 5 pillars are like a map. They help you understand who is where, who has what, and what the game looks like. In game theory, we call this the state space. You need to know where your pieces are, where the opponent's pieces are, and what moves are possible. If you don't have this map, you're basically playing chess with your eyes closed. But if you understand these 5 pillars, you can analyze, prioritize, and make strategic decisions. Not random, not reactive, but focused and informed. This is the foundation you need before you move to the next strategy. If I could only give you one model to keep in your SOC manager brain, it would be the OODA loop. OODA stands for observe, watch what's happening, orient, understand and analyze the situation, decide, choose your response, act, take action. This model originally came from fighter pilots, but it's perfect for cybersecurity too. Here's why it matters. Your SOC is playing a competitive game with attackers. The one who cycles through the OODA loop faster wins. Think about it. The attacker makes a move. You need to see it, understand it, decide what to do, and react. But if the attacker can do all this in seconds, and your SOC needs 3 days because of bureaucracy, missing data, or unclear processes, well, you already lost. Game theory teaches us in a repeated game, speed and decision making are key advantages. Even if your defense isn't perfect, if you can react faster and smarter, you can stay ahead. One last point. Most people focus only on the last step, act. They want to respond quickly, but if you don't spend enough time on orient, you can make bad decisions and hurt yourself. That's why the OODA loop isn't just a buzzword. It's the difference between an average SOC and a professional one. Let me be honest. A lot of people in the SOCs will love fancy stuff. Advanced threats, threat hunting, malware analysis, machine learning and AI, fancy dashboards. But many times we are skating on thin ice because we don't even know what assets we have, where they are, or who has access to them. Teams love shiny tools, but their foundations are weak. It's like building a beautiful glass ceiling on top of a building with no strong base. Things like a complete asset inventory, knowing which systems are critical, understanding where your logs are coming from and how long you keep them. These are the boring but essential parts. The lesson from the Elentiya Effect here is: a strong defense comes from a strong foundation, not from fancy tools. One of my favorite quotes from the SANS podcast is: if you only focus on advanced threats but don't understand your systems and data, you'll think you're cool, but you're actually failing. Security starts with knowing what you have, where is it, how it works, and why it matters. Until now, we've talked about structure, foundations, and the OODA loop. But now let's get to the real heart of the strategy, the business mission. If a SOC analyst can't clearly explain what their organization actually does, how can they know which alert is critical and which one is just noise? Let me give you an example. Imagine you are working in a fintech company. If you don't know that the most valuable asset is the payment infrastructure, you might pay too much attention to an alert about a reporting server and ignore an alert about the money transfer service. This is where game theory helps again. It says, to make the right move, you must first understand how the game is scored. In other words, you need to know if this service goes down, how much will it hurt the company? Which systems are critical? Which ones are just nice to have? The SANS podcast authors shared something powerful here. When an alert comes into the SOC, the analyst should decide based on the organization's context, not just based on the log. What does that mean? It means, for example, maybe your company recently opened a new branch in India, or they've just moved their servers to the cloud, or they're testing a new payment platform. If you don't know these things, you will analyze alerts blindly and probably make the wrong call. One more cool point from the podcast. Most analysts don't like sitting in management meetings. They think it's boring. But sometimes those meetings tell you things that help you understand the bigger picture, like a new partnership, a new service, or an upcoming event that might explain future alerts. Their advice was simple. Be curious. Understand your organization's mission. Bring that knowledge into your daily analysis. So, if you really want to be strong in this field, don't just focus on technical skills. Know what your company is fighting for and know exactly what you are defending. Let's talk about the second pillar of situational awareness, law and regulation. Many people in security think that's not technical, that's for the legal team, that's for ISMS team. But this is actually where a smart SOC can become powerful. Why? Because laws and compliance rules decide what you need to log, how long you must keep data, how you must encrypt sensitive information, who you must report incident to, and how fast. These rules affect everything: your system design, your tool selection, even your budget. Game theory says a smart player uses the rules of the game to create an advantage, not just to avoid punishment. So, if you know what regulations apply to your organization, like PCI DSS, GDPR, or local banking rules, you can easily tell your manager, we need this tool, or we need to keep these logs because the law says so. That becomes your power card to get support, budget, and authority. The podcast also mentions something really important. Privacy is becoming a much bigger challenge. It's not just about what you log. It's also about whether you're even allowed to collect and store that data. You must know what data is sensitive, who can see it, how it's protected, how long it can stay in your systems. And here's a bitter truth. Soon, collecting the right logs will be harder than analyzing them. So your SOC needs to prepare now, not just for threats, but for legal and ethical responsibilities too. Now let's look at the third pillar of situational awareness, your technical environment. In simple words, what system do you have? Where are they? How do they work? How important are they? Let me tell you something from real SOC life. If you go to the IT team and ask, can you give me a full list of our servers? One team will say, it's all in Active Directory. Another team will say, it's in our vulnerability scanner. Another will say, we keep it in the CMDB. And the truth is, none of them are complete. Each one is only a part of the picture. So, what's the solution? You need to build a composite inventory. Combine all those partial lists and create one clear. In game theory, we call this reducing uncertainty in the game. The more you know about your assets and environment, the faster and better you can make decisions. And it's not just about servers anymore. Today, your environment includes cloud services, containers, APIs, microservices, automated system. The podcast author said something very true. Asset inventory is the foundation of everything. Patching, detection, incident response, even strategic planning. Some mature SOCs even spend as much money on building their asset inventory as they do on buying a SIEM. Because without knowing what you have, nothing else matters. So, don't get stuck thinking you need a perfect list from day one. Start small, focus on one area, learn it well, then expand. That's how you grow a strong, strategic SOC. Now you've mapped your systems and servers, but the job isn't done yet. The fourth pillar of situational awareness is about users and behavior. It's not enough to know what system you have. You need to know who is using them, how they're using them, who has access to what, whether that access is really needed. Today, most attacks are identity-based, password thief, MFA bypass, admin account abuse. Many other tricks where the attackers uses valid credential. So you need to understand what is normal behavior and spot what's abnormal. But there is the problem. If you send an alert for every unusual login and ask the user, hey, was this you logging in from Istanbul? You will become a spam machine and everyone will ignore you. Some smart companies fix this by using a bot. When there is suspicious login, the bot asks the user directly, was this login from German you? The user replies yes or no. Simple, fast, effective. But beyond technology, you need to know this. Not all users are the same. For example, a sales manager who travels a lot will have different login pattern. The finance manager should always log in from one location. The IT team might work at night, but HR staff won't. When you understand this, you can make better decisions about what's risky. There is one more thing, service-to-service interaction. For example, a login service connects to the user profile service. That service connects to the database, and so on. So you need to know how your services connected and trust each other. In game theory terms, the game isn't only between players, it's also between alliances and relationships. Now we've reached the fifth and final pillar of situational awareness. Threats. The reason SOCs exist in the first place. If there were no threats, there would be no need for SIEMs, alerts, or incident response teams. But here is a common mistake. Many SOC teams only focus on external threat intel. They look at new hacker groups, new malware, big attacks in other countries. Yes, these are important, but what's even more important is knowing what threats have happened inside your own organization. Ask yourself, what incidents have we already seen? How did they happen? Where were we weak? What was the attacker's pattern? In game theory, this is called learning from previous games to predict the next moves. One more thing, threats don't always come from outside. Many times they come from inside. A frustrated employee, a compromised admin account, someone misusing access, or even employees who don't know what they are doing. This is called an insider threat, and it's often more dangerous because it starts from inside your walls. The podcast also mentioned a good point. Sometimes your organization offers services to the outside world, like APIs, SaaS platforms, or payment gateways. Attackers can use those open doors to get in. For example, phishing email coming from your own email server. Attackers abusing your public API. Summary: threats are not just IP addresses or malware names. A threat is anything that can hurt your organization's mission. So, start by understanding threats inside your environment. Then use external threat intel to complete the picture. See the game from the attacker's view. Ask yourself, if I were an attacker, what would I target? Where is the easiest way in? Where are we weak? The answers will shape your defense strategy. So far, we've talked about the 5 pillars of situational awareness. But here is a key question. Once you build this awareness, are you done? No. This is not a one-time project. It is an ongoing process. Something you need to improve all the time. Your environment changes. New projects, new systems, new services, cloud migration. If you stick to your old information, you will fall behind. One of the best tips in the podcast was, don't try to build everything perfectly from day one. Start small, focus on one area, learn it well, and then grow. For example, focus only on one critical service, like your payment gateway. Understand its data, users, and threats. Analyze its logs, write detection rules for it, share what you've learned with the team. That's a small but meaningful win. And when you deliver that win, your team will trust you more, management will approve more budget, your analysts and engineers feel motivated, and you will see real progress. In game theory, this is called building trust in your strategy over time. As you move forward, the game becomes faster, smarter, and more effective. Another important recommendation, automate whatever you can. Pull data from Active Directory, CMDB, Cloud APIs, anything that saves your team from manual Excel sheets. And always focus your efforts on what really matters. You can't monitor everything, so you must know what is truly critical to protect. So, my friends, we've reached the end of one of the most important episodes in the season. Today, we talk about MITRE SOC strategy number 1. Know what you are protecting and why. And we learn security starts with understanding your organization mission. A strong defense begins with knowing your assets and users. You need to understand the threats, internal and external. And most importantly, that situational awareness is never finished. At the Elentiya Effect, we believe the strongest defender is the one who clearly understands what they are defending and why. So I want you to ask yourself today, do I really know what I'm protecting? Why? And based on what information? If your answer isn't clear, don't worry. The fact that you're asking the question means you are on the right path. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your teammates. Let me know on LinkedIn or wherever you are listening if this content helped you. And remember, we are not just reading logs here. We are leading strategic decisions. We are the eyes and ears of our organizations. We are the bridge between technology and mission. And most of all, we are part of a new generation of defenders who don't just react to alerts. We understand the whole game. I'm Shirin Hejri, and this is the Elentiya Effect. Until the next episode, stay aware and stay secure.
This is the Elentiya Effect. Stay informed.